Hello and welcome to Zelda Speedruns, bringing you the first game of the grand finals of the Link's Awakening Switch Any% Glitchless tournament. It is EDL versus Glan, and on commentary for you is Antonio. Take it away.
All right, hello everyone, welcome in. Welcome to this grand final for our Link's Awakening Switch tournament, which this year was run on the Glitchless category. So this final will see Glan battling EDL. So this is going to be very interesting. These are two of the best runners of the category, respectively second and third on the leaderboards. Their PBs are literally 1 second apart, so I mean, it's a race, anything can happen, but we have two runners of pretty much an equal level of skill. So, yeah, anything could happen. We don't know yet who will win, of course. That's something we will see over the next hour, maybe more. I mean, the run should last at least an hour and 40 minutes, something around this kind of time. So EDL is rising from the lower bracket, which means that if EDL wins this round, there will be a second round to determine who actually wins this tournament. But since Glan has reached the final without losing any one of his race, he only needs to win this one to complete the tournament and be the grand champion of Link's Awakening on Switch. I think we'll be getting started quite soon, so get something to drink, get something to eat if you want. I mean, I'm not your dad. And we'll get starting in a few seconds. I know both our runners have been practicing a lot lately, so definitely practiced a lot for this. And I mean, that's what we've noticed over the past few weeks of the tournament. People actually grinded the category a lot, and I think a lot of people actually improved on their personal best, which is cool. So right away, this is Link's Awakening, so Link is actually not in Hyrule this time. He's straight in on an island somewhere, and he's actually lost his sword. So after getting his shield, he's straight up going to the beach for the sword. It's just there, planted in the ground. Before starting, it's worth noting that the game is run in German. Simply because it's the one language that has the less amount of text boxes. We can skip through dialogue anyway, so it's not about which text goes by faster, but the amount of text boxes. And German actually is pretty fast. I mean, if you compare it to English, German saves roughly a minute, mostly because at the end of dungeons you have less text displaying, saving about like 6 or 7 seconds per dungeon. And there's 8 dungeons in this game we have to complete, so this overall saves a lot of time being German here. So what's the point of this game? I mean, if you don't know Link's Awakening, the point of, Link's quest here is to, escape this island, this mysterious island he's got himself on. And for this he needs to gather 8 instruments, scattered across 8 dungeons on the island, which will be used to wake up the windfish. I mean, I'm basically spoiling the whole plot, I'm sorry. I apologize if you didn't know about Link's Awakening's plot. So our runners will try to do that as fast as possible without using any kind of glitch. And in order to get to the first dungeon, we first need to get its key. And the key is somewhere in the forest, but the forest is cursed, and you can't get to that key before doing actually some stuff before. So right now you can see that our runners got a mushroom, which will be used by the witch to get some magic powder. And the magic powder will allow Link to actually get the tail key in order to enter the first dungeon of the game. So it may not seem like it, but this navigating in this forest is actually sort of technical. Because you have a lot of moblins running around, and it's not exactly random. They have some behavior to it, and you can actually influence it depending on how Link moves, where he moves. But that's a lot to take care of. I mean, you've seen in the cave where Link went through, there is also a lot of bats, which has some very erratic behavior. So you can see that EDL is having less trouble than Glan. But at this point of the run, it doesn't really matter a lot. So here we are. They basically powder a guy and, I mean, a raccoon that turns out to be Mario in disguise. I mean, he's not named Mario, but he definitely looks like Mario, so... And if you've played the game, you probably know that there's a lot of references to the Nintendo universe. I won't see most of these references in this run. I don't think... Yeah, we see some Goombas in the speedrun, that's it. Some Goombas and Mario. Also, one of the most infamous parts of the game is its trading quest. There's a very long... over the game, there's a lot of items to acquire and trade with other people in the island. And the first one of which is the Yoshi doll you get here in this trendy game. And it's the ultimate run killer. Thankfully, both of the runners got it on their first try. I mean, everyone knows the best part of Glitchless runs is Yoshi. I mean, I don't think the runners actually enjoy Yoshi that much. It's very scary. Because the physics of the trendy game are very specific. I mean, if you've played the game, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's a bit difficult to explain, but items you pick up in the crane have a tendency to slip up and get out of its reach. Thankfully, everything went fine. So right now they're already completing a few steps of the trade quest. So first they traded in the Yoshi doll for ribbon, which they're now trading in for dog food. And that's it for now. We'll come back to the trade quest later. Don't worry about it. And now that this is done, it's time for them to go and deal with the first dungeon. So right now, both runners are pretty much tied. I mean, they're practically at the same point. There hasn't been any major mistakes. And usually in a run, anything can happen. A race, I mean, anything can happen. In a race, you have to learn how to deal with your mistakes, because you can't reset. You also have to... So here, we've seen different ways our runners went through this room. It's actually... the way they're doing it is... When they were going to the right there, I don't think Glan did it, but EDL definitely did. She did a few slashes with the sword, because when Link uses a sword, he's completely stops moving for 10 frames. And by doing 4 slashes, 3 or 4 slashes, you give the time for the sparks to go by, and you can make sure you don't get hurt by whatever's walking around in this room. So right now we have unlocked a jump button. The feather item in this game allows Link to jump, which is a very convenient feature. And it's pretty much going to stay on the Y button for the whole run. There's nothing too crazy about the first dungeon in the run. It's pretty straightforward. It's a pretty short dungeon. It's the first one. It's not meant to be too much of a challenge. It's not too big. There's not too many doors, too many keys to collect. So right now they're getting the Nightmare Key, which is going to allow them to enter the boss room. But first, before getting to the boss, there is a short mini-boss. This green dude, pink. Green is Link. Just, yeah, if you didn't know that the little green guy is named Link and not Zelda, despite what the title of the game is. Yeah, this is a Zelda game, but there's no Zelda in it. So here we face our first boss, Moldorm, who can be a bit trolly sometimes. So you need to hit his tail a few times, and every time you hit him almost every time, he's going to protect his tail, so you can't hit it straight away. So yeah, both runners do a spin slash around the tail and then jump 8 times, I think. Which is a way to time how long Moldorm is going to run around scared about death or something. If Moldorm even has a soul, I don't know. And the Windfish apparently is not Zelda. And right now they're very, very close still. But only 12 minutes has passed, so a lot can still happen. So right now you see, that's what I was mentioning earlier. When leaving the dungeon right now, there was a white screen with some text. And in German, there's only one white screen with text. And if you play in English, there's actually 2 screens. You need to pass the first one to get to the second one, and then you go back to the overworld. That's what takes that long in English. And yeah, Moldorm is definitely sometimes referred to as a hamburger. But apparently, what seems to be lettuce, like that green thing that's on the side, is meant to be tiny feet. So it feels gross. So right now they traded in their dog food against bananas, which is the next step of the trading quest. So now that they're back at the village, they're interrupted by two kids, which were playing ball, I think, earlier. And they're telling you that Bow Wow, the village dog, which is actually a chainsaw from the you may have seen from any sort of Mario game, Bow Wow has been kidnapped. And we need to rescue him. That's what they're doing right now. They're headed to the Moblin camp to rescue Bow Wow. And getting Bow Wow will actually allow us to enter the second dungeon. And I'm really amazed they're pretty much exactly at the exact same spot. We're really going to have a race going. So after dealing with this Moblins, they actually face the Moblin King here. And they can actually kill this guy in one cycle by first spin slashing him and slashing a few times. You actually can't mash your sword here because even though it doesn't show, the Moblin King has some iframes. So if you keep mashing B, which is the sword button, most of these hits are not going to count for the total damage you deal to the Moblin King. There's actually a rhythm to it. I don't remember exactly at what BPM it is, but apparently I was told that it's the rhythm to Viva la Vida. If you want to hum that while doing this fight. And now that they've rescued Bow Wow, they're on their way to the swamp here, which is where the next dungeon is located. And Bow Wow, for some reason, is allowed to eat anything, including some plants. Oh yeah, I haven't mentioned the piece of power yet, but basically, when you kill enemies in this game, the enemies can drop a few power-ups, namely an acorn, which boosts Link's defense, and a piece of power which boosts Link's damage from his sword. And they don't drop randomly. There's a mathematical formula. So what these runners are doing right now is that they're actually keeping track of the number of enemies they're killing, because they're going to want a piece of power to drop at some specific times in the game in order to go through some fights faster. And Bow Wow eating everything could be a problem, but Bow Wow eating things actually doesn't count on Link's kill count, except for the big flowers. The big flowers count as a kill, for some reason. So yeah, Glitchless actually involves doing some math, which later in the run will actually... it could influence some rounding decisions. Now that they've done short work of this Hinox here, and both of the both of the runners are moving forward in the dungeon. And in this room, they're going to get the dungeon item. And drumroll, it's the power bracelets. And now, because Link is wearing the power bracelet, he's able to be strong. And he can lift pots. And yeah, exactly. As Meeks is saying in chat right now, hello Meeks, who's a runner of the game as well. Runners are usually routing their kills beforehand. So they know already in advance where they want their piece of power to drop, so they figure out that which enemies they have to kill and which they should avoid. Okay, so now that they took care of this room, in which they have to kill the big rabbit, the bat, and the skeleton in a specific order. Otherwise, it doesn't work. You actually learn that from, I think, one of the owl statues in the dungeon. They can now face this dungeon's boss, who's the genie. Which is just after this short side-scrolling segment. Yeah, you can just jump over this pit and get to the door without having to go all the way through. So Ginny is just, you know, flexing, juggling fireballs. So in order to take care of Ginny, you first have to break the vase in. So first you have to wait that he completely threw all these fireballs, and you can slash his vase and throw it against the wall. There's nothing much to do here, except wait and dodge the fireballs. Now EDL has released Genie. And Glan is just like maybe a couple seconds later. And it is going to duplicate himself and circle around Link. You can actually figure out which one is the real Genie due to how he moves. And if you're careful enough and stay close to the real Genie, you can kill him in 2 cycles, which is what both runners did here, which is nice. And this allows us to get the second instrument after 21 minutes. So that was Dungeon 2. Then we have some white screens and some text. So right now, we have to unlock this warp here, which is going to come in handy later. And we have to return Bow Wow to its owners. Sadly, we won't be keeping Bow Wow for the rest of the game. He has to go home at some point. I mean, you can't even I don't think you can actually go through, continue the game with Barrow. I mean, getting the next dungeon key actually involves talking to an NPC that won't talk to you if you're at Barrow. I mean, won't tell you the right dialogue for it. It's going to be offended by the fact that you carry a chain chomp. They are really neck and neck right now. Glan is only like a couple seconds behind EDL. But before continuing, we have some shopping to do. I'm going to buy a few bombs, because completing Dungeon 2 actually unlocks the possibility to buy bombs in the shop. But you can also steal things in this game, and this is something we are going to take advantage of. Stealing first the shovel, and then the bow and arrow, which saves, like I think, about 1200 rupees. Which is convenient. At least we don't have to farm rupees. So stealing is possible in this game. You just have to pick up the item and figure out how to get out of the shop without the shopkeeper seeing you. Which could be achieved in a regular playthrough as well, if you're crafty about it. So the next step in the run is to continue the trading quest, and this is where the trading quest will end. We're going to give the bananas to Kiki the monkey, who's going to get a build, going to build a bridge here in order to get inside Canalit Castle, which is the next part of this run. And this is where the trading quest ends, because we won't be needing anything more from it. I mean, the monkey gives us a stick, but yeah, that's over. We're going to keep that stick until the end. And we get to enter the castle through a secret entrance. And in this castle, we have to collect 5 golden leaves. The first one being dropped by this crow here, which we get to kill with a bomb arrow. And yeah, if you didn't know, you can use bomb arrows in this game. If you equip both bomb and arrows on your 2 item slots and press both buttons at the same time, you combine both of them. So we need to collect 5 golden leaves in order to continue. EDL got a piece of power drop, which is probably what she was aiming to do here. So this is what we were talking about. This is what they were doing by counting the number of enemies they killed. So the main perk of getting a piece of power is Link does double the amount of damage and also works slightly faster, which is going to be useful for a mini-boss in this castle, which is guarding one of the golden leaves. Glan is slightly more behind EDL. He had some trouble in the shop trying to steal the bow. Right now we can see EDL going against ball and chain. And this is why we want piece of power. That allows us to deal with ball and chain really quickly. Not having piece of power is not the end of the world here. You can just continue hitting ball and chain repeatedly, but it takes more time and it's a bit dangerous because ball and chain can deal quite a bit of damage if you're not careful. And the last feather is guarded by this Mad Bomber. So there we go. Both runners have everything they need. Glan is catching up. Slightly. We really have a race going. This is really, really close. And there's still a lot of things that could happen during the run, where one runner could lose time. So why did we need those 5 golden leaves, you could ask? Well, that's because in this house here lives a guy named Richard, who is keeping the key for the next dungeon in his garden, and he won't let you get into his garden as long as you did not go and collect the golden leaves for him. And you can actually go and get the leaves before ever talking to him. The thing is, you will have to talk to him twice. The first time to trigger the quest to collect the leaves, and the second time to actually turn it in. And here is the key. So you can see that EDL is slashing the grass here. Glan is going to do the same. That's because walking in grass slows Link down, and this is a speedrun. We want to go as fast as we can. But you can also notice that they're not just slashing the sword. As I said earlier, when you slash your sword in this game, Link stops for a full 10 frames. But if you jump and slash, Link still moves during the jump. The only downtime is the landing, which I think immobilized Link for, I think, 4 frames, if I'm not mistaken. So doing a jump slash has less range, but you lose less time doing it. And here we are, this is Dungeon 3, the Key Cavern. Named like this because apparently it has a lot of keys. So this room, it may not look like it, but it's not easy to deal with. Because there's a few enemies that are working somewhat randomly. There's a few, I think 20 different patterns. It could happen here in this room. This dungeon is also shaped like a key, yeah. This is true. So since this is the key cavern, we have to collect a bunch of keys in order to complete it. And this dungeon has this mini boss, which are the dongos, which you can defeat by feeding them bombs, and then waiting until they can eat again. And nothing too exciting here. Just have to wait, place a bomb, and just have to feed them both. Nothing too crazy, but once you dealt with them, you actually get to the chest, which contains the dungeon item, which are, drumroll, the Pegasus boots, which is going to be very useful because it allows Link to run, and this is called a speedrun, not a speedwalk. Running is going to be very useful. You can cover a lot of ground with those boots. And unlike the original games, where you had to actually equip the boots on one of your two buttons. The boots are bound to one of the trigger buttons on your controller. You don't have to equip it; it's there forever, just like the shield. Like the game has a lot of quality of life upgrades over the original versions. Definitely enjoys more. I mean, since the Switch has more buttons than the Game Boy, they made sure you had some items already equipped to some buttons, and you still have two buttons to which you can assign any item you want. So right now they took a slight detour in order to pick up the 300 rupees in that chest, which is going to be handy for later. We're gonna have to spend 300 rupees in like 40 minutes, something like this. It's not going to pay off straight away, but later. Okay, so right now they both have the Nightmare Key and 3 little small keys, getting a 4th one right now. And they're ready to go and fight the final boss. To do so, you need to go through this contraption in the middle where there's 4 keyholes which block your way, which is why we needed 4 little keys. And now it's going to be time for this dungeon boss, which are slime eyes. Slime eye. I mean, there's 2 eyes, so I'm gonna say it's slime eyes. Which appears once you've bonked against the wall. And then you need to separate both eyes and deal with each blob separately. Good fight for EDL, and seems to be going as well for Glan. Both runners are still pretty close to each other. So as you have noticed, yeah, no, I'm not saying anything. But EDL left the heart container from that boss behind when Glan decided to take it. That's really up to the runner's discretion. You don't have to pick them up, it doesn't change anything. The main thing is that you have to be comfortable with the amount of hearts you have. The only thing the amount of heart containers you pick up changes is the number of enemies you have to kill for the piece of power drop. Not picking up the heart container saves like maybe 5 or 6 seconds. But being safe and getting it is actually better than dying. If you're confident with keeping at 5 hearts, which most runners do most of the time, you shouldn't have any problem. But this is a race, so it's not about getting the getting a PB. So I guess being safe is actually a reasonable play. So once we've completed the 3rd dungeon, we go and have a short visit to the animal village on the other side of the island, just to talk to the walrus here, who's blocking the way. And talking to the walrus allows us to unlock the next sequence of events, which we're going to need to go through. Because to go through the walrus, we need to go and talk to Marin, which is the Zelda equivalent of this game. Because Marin has a lovely voice and sings well, so she can wake up the walrus with a good song. But first, we actually have to go and pick up the ocarina. And this is where the strange things happen, because this game's happening inside a dream, and right now they're heading into a dream shrine to sleep and dream that they're picking up an ocarina. So yeah, it's definitely some kind of Inception thing. And as I was saying, so they're both getting the ocarina here, and now they're going to head to the beach to have a nice little dating cutscene with Marin. And Marin doesn't actually go to the beach unless a few like flags are triggered, which in this game are either continuing the trading quest and getting the pineapple to the bear chef in the Emerald Village, or in this game you can actually talk to the walrus as well. I don't think that's the case in the Game Boy version. Yeah, but enjoy this game to be like the cute moment of the game, and both runners are slightly not at this. We're going to see it twice, not at the same time. So enjoy. It's a nice cutscene. Everything looks cute. Marin will tell us about our dreams of being a seagull. There's nothing to do here but enjoy the landscape, enjoy the moment. I mean, it's a good break from the run. The only thing you have to be careful of is at some point she asks for your input, and if you mess up and answer no, she just restarts the cutscene. And you have to go through it again, which on one hand is cool because it's a nice cutscene, but this is a speedrun and we want to go fast ultimately. And we now have Marin following us. And now Link needs to bring Marin to the animal village to wake up the walrus. And why are we doing that? That's because we need to get to the desert, which is just behind the walrus. Because in the desert we will find the angler key. And the angler key allows us to get inside the next dungeon. You can see that the walrus is definitely enjoying this. And just jumps back in the water. And if you come back later, if you come back later and play Marin's song with the ocarina there, the walrus is going to appear and be disappointed that it's you and not Marin. Okay, so EDL there managed to throw 3 bomb arrows, slightly missing the window for the fourth one. There you can see that Glan actually managed to land 4 bomb arrows there and just finished that boss in one cycle, getting the key, without having to wait for that snake thing to reappear. So it's definitely saving a few seconds of that. And that way they get the angler key, which is going to allow them to get into Dungeon 4, the angler tunnel. But first, another cute cutscene with Marin, because we can't get enough of it. And enjoy because, well, we won't be seeing Marin after that. So yeah, we were on a date with Marin, and like a couple minutes later it's over. But we get to learn a song from this. Okay, so they both learned the Ballad of the Windfish, so Marin's song, which is going to be necessary for completing the game. But we'll see that in about an hour. So there's a couple ways to get to the next dungeon, and they're both going to that one here. Where you can do that tricky jump there, where you can jump over the water and grab the ladder midair. It's a tricky jump, which saves I think like 2 seconds from from going through another way. But that lands us right near the angler keyhole where you use that key and shut off like that waterfall. And this big carving of a fish on the side of the mountain is actually the next dungeon. And this dungeon is home to one of Glitchless' most infamous tricks. If we're going to call that a trick, or maybe a manipulation, but something that is definitely not a glitch. But we'll see that in a couple of minutes. First, they need to head into Dungeon 4. So, what's the Dungeon 4 here? We need to... we won't be actually completing Dungeon 4 right away. Dungeon 4 in this run is completed in 2 trips. First, we need to go that way, get a couple of keys. Which are in 2 chests here. You can see EDL and Glan being neck and neck on the first one. Getting the second key, and now it's time for the bomb jump. So this is kind of a tricky jump, where you throw a bomb and hope to be pushed by its explosion while you're in the middle of a jump here. Which EDL failed. Oh, that's sad. Let's see if Glan get it first try. This is very tricky. You want to throw the bomb. Okay. EDL got it second try and Glan got it first try. So now they are exactly at the same pace. What's happening here is that we're throwing a bomb at a very specific spot and jumping at a very specific timing, so we get pushed at the bottom of this cross-shaped intersection. And doing this actually saves going through a long way in the dungeon, and it actually skips getting 2 more keys. Glan had less trouble, apparently, getting through Cubal here, this mini-boss. And they now have the flippers, and Link can now swim. So Glan actually managed to save a lot of time over EDL. And now they're out of Dungeon 4. I'll explain later. I mean, we need to enjoy that cutscene here. You are. I mean, we need to stop everything we're doing during that cutscene. It's really the best song of the game. I mean, there's no debate. So they learn right now Mambo's Mambo. which allows us to teleport to any warp point we've already discovered here. So, right now, what they're both choosing to do here is, instead of going to the next dungeon straight away, which is dungeon 5, they're going to go and collect the key to dungeon 6. It saves a tiny bit of time over getting it after the dungeon 5. The decision of whether or not you need to pick it up right now or after dungeon 5 is ultimately a routing decision dependent on where you are on your kill count. I don't want to go into the specifics. It depends on how many enemies you've killed until now, because in dungeon 5 we need a piece of power at the end. So we need to make sure we are set up for that. And going through this maze actually allows a few extra kills, which can come in handy for getting the piece of power where we want it in the next dungeon. And before I started talking about that, I was mentioning that Dungeon 4 is not completing right away. That's because if you finish D4, it triggers a side quest where a ghost starts to follow Link around and wants you to find his house and then his tomb. And while you're followed by the ghost, you can't get inside dungeons. Which is not very convenient for us. So what we do is that we complete Dungeon 4 last. Because if we manage to get that, finish the Dungeon 4 last, and don't go past a specific point on the map, the ghost never appears, so we don't have to complete this side quest. So right now they defeated the Almost Knight, who was guarding the key to Dungeon 6. Which is not the dungeon they're headed right now. Right now they're going inside the 5th dungeon. Which is again a big carving out of a fish, except this time it's in the middle of a lake. And both runners are on an incredible pace. And they're really, like, they're not more than 2 seconds apart. As of right now, it's very, very close. We really have a race going. This is very interesting. So the main gimmick in this dungeon is its mini-boss, who's Master Salvo. So it's a big skeleton because he stole the dungeon's item. So you need to track him down and get it from him. So this is going to be what the runners are doing right now. They're going to go through the dungeon as fast as possible, go through those encounters. First they have to open this door. EDL managed to go slightly ahead of Glan. I think Glan was slightly ahead before, I mean at the entrance of Dungeon 5. And EDL's actually caught up with it. There's really a good back and forth. This is really impressive. So that was the first encounter. Here there's this chest, which actually contains a note written by Master Stalfos himself, saying he's stolen the dungeon item. So there's a bit of maneuvering around this intersection here to get to the second Stalfos encounter. So it's not exactly obvious, but in order to defeat Master Stomp, you have to hit him with your sword when he's trying to attack you. So that way you break him down in bones. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. And then you have to drop a bomb that blows him up. And you have to do that 3 times. And again, since we need a piece of power drop at the end of this dungeon, the runners are being very careful of the number of enemies they kill. So it may not look like it, it may seem deliberate, it may seem, it may look very natural, but they know exactly which monster they're killing in this, pretty much everywhere in this dungeon. Because at this point, in order to get a piece of power drop, EDL is going to have a piece of power drop after 37 kills. Glan is going to get one every 38 kills. So right now they know exactly where they are with it, and they're killing the appropriate number of monsters in order to get it at the one place they need it. Which is going to be quite soon, because that was the 4th encounter of Master Salvos, which gives us the hookshot. And the reason why they both have a different amount of kills needed for the piece of power drop is because that count depends on how many heart containers you have. EDL only has 5 hearts. Glan decided to be safe and picked up an extra one, so he has 6 full hearts. So yeah, the formula is for the piece of power drop is 32 plus the number of hearts you have. So if you have 5, it's 32 plus 5. If you have 6, it's 32 plus 6. So if you plan to get some extra heart containers, you have to account for that in your piece of power routing. You need to make sure you know exactly what you need to kill. But I'm sure our runners know exactly what they're doing. And now they got the hookshot, and the Nightmare Key, they're going to go to the final boss fight of this dungeon, which is why we need the piece of power. Because that boss, which is Slime Eel, is not an easy one. First, it depends on RNG. You pretty much have a 50-50 chance of getting it at a spot where you want it to be. But I'll get that twin once we're there. They both got their piece of power where they want them, and then going across this pit here by doing a skewed hookshot. And they are in the Slime Eel Fight. And as you will see, Slime Eel comes out of 4 different holes on the wall. And where Slime Eel come out of is random. So it's a pain to take care of it, but having the piece of power allows you to one-cycle Slime Eel if you're lucky. So EDL got a very unfortunate position. Glan got the same one. Okay, they got the exact same kind of RNG. So you see that's 4 holes, and you can do it, ultimately, ideally you want Slime Eel to pop out from one of the bottom holes. If it's the one on the top left, you can actually pull it off, but top right is almost impossible to take care of. Which is what they both got on the first Slime Eel appearance. But they managed to save it and get the second one. And since they have a piece of power, they only had to deal 8 Soul Smashes to Slime Eel. If you don't have the piece of power, you need 16 hits. And it actually involves going through different cycles of Slime Eel, which is very, very unfortunate because, well, it's RNG every time. And I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, Sliming can send fake outs after the first time you started. I mean, after his first appearance. So yes, Sliming is definitely a very technical fight. They both got the 1 in 4 RNG that doesn't work out for them, but they both got it on the second cycle. And now, they already got the key for this dungeon before, so they just have to go to the keyhole, and the dungeon just appears from the ground. And here we are, this is Dungeon 6, the Face Shrine. Also a very technical dungeon. In my opinion, one of the best of the games. It also has some difficulty. But it looks cool. And it sounds cool as well. So, nothing too noteworthy right now. They're just going on the way to the dungeon item. EDL is slightly ahead of Glan. It's like a matter of like maybe 5 seconds. Nothing more, nothing less. So here we are, that's the dungeon item. It's an upgraded power bracelet, which allows us to pick up these these statues. And now we have to complete this dungeon. It's going to take a few minutes, because there's a lot of things to take care of. You get a few keys. And I feel like it's worth mentioning that at this point it's not necessary for the runners to keep track of their kills. They're done. They both got the piece of power exactly what they needed in both occasions. Right before Ball and Chain in Catholic Castle, and right before Slimy in Dungeon 5. Both managed to go through this room quickly. Yeah, because you can use that anti-fairy there as a target for a bomb arrow to take care of the Reese robes quickly. There's a bit of RNG to it depending on where the anti-fairy goes when you enter the room. Then you get to break some tiling, some tiles. Which may be why the dungeon boss is not very pleased at you when you reach him. I mean, you've pretty much ransacked the place, break everything. So right now they're going to face this mini-boss, which is Smasher, and EDL managed to grab the ball. And Glan as well, wow. This is very impressive. Because when you enter the room, Smasher goes for the ball right away, and if you're very, very fast, you can grab it just before him. It's very, very tricky. It's not that tricky, but the timing is precise. And both runners got it. That's very, very impressive. Both runners are really like doing the run of their life. Like, this is genuinely impressive. There hasn't been any major mistake. They all got the Yoshi Ball first try. Glan got his first cycle down Mona to get the Angler Key, which is not the case for EDL, and EDL also failed the bomb jump once. EDL is still ahead by a few seconds, but this is very, very close. So they're just going through the dungeon as usual, breaking some more tiles flying at you, to allow them to get an extra key here. Here comes a very tricky puzzle. Look at that. Oof, EDL managed to miss a horse throw. Nothing too bad. Here comes one of the rare occurrences where we actually play Marine Song. Because Marine Song displays those big rabbits and kills them instantly, which is cool. Saves time. Also saves some arrows. We have to go through another Dodongo's encounter. This one is a bit more tricky because you don't have as much room to maneuver. And Dodongos have a mind of their own. And by doing this, they can access this little chest here, which you can open only by throwing a pot at it. That is the only chest in the game where you can do that. Can't open it the regular way. And they're really like, both of them are like 3 seconds apart. Is the song so bad they don't want to hear it? I think it's been like this since Zelda 1. I'm pretty sure that's the thing about one of the very old Zelda games where these rabbits enemies have been there forever and they don't like music and just die. Don't remember which Zelda game it originated from, but it's been a thing ever since. And now we get to go through Facade. Facade is the boss for this dungeon. Okay, so the only way Facade will take damage is through bombs. So what runners do is they drop bombs where Facade appears. It's partly scripted, partly random where Facade appears. So the first one you can just put the bombs on the ground, and at the end you have to use bomb arrows if you want to take care of it quickly. Which is what both runners did, and was really, really good from both of them. And that is where we get the Coral Triangle, the 6th instrument. I mean, that's the 5th one we get, because we didn't complete D4. So we still have 3 instruments to go. And both runners are still playing out of their mind. Exactly on the same, the exact same thing. And this is where we actually need the 300 rupees, which we got back in Dungeon 3. Because, well, first we have to go through the sign maze here. You just have to read the signs in the correct order. Thankfully this maze is not random, it's the same thing every time. Just have to follow the route. And yeah, I'm trying to follow up chat, and yeah, I think they were on Zelda 1, and if I remember correctly, the Famicom had a microphone on it, and if you yelled at your controller, you could actually kill those rabbits. which I think is where it comes from. So while we were talking about Zelda history, both runners went through the sign maze without much trouble. And this is where we spent 300 rupees to learn that song. Let's enjoy the performance. We got the Frog Song of Souls, which literally can raise people from death. Because with this song we can do the next part of the run and of the game. Quite of an unfortunate bonk here for EDL. Glan chose to teleport away. Well, EDL didn't. If my memory is correct, getting out of the maze yourself saves, I think, a second over warping. If you do everything correctly. So since EDL bonked, I think it was not worth it, compared to Glan who's trying to get the safer way out. And with the Frog Song of Souls, you get to revive that rooster. Was buried there for some reason. And here we go. They now have the rooster, which is going to be a vital part of accessing the next dungeon. So we get to go in the Telltale Mountains, because this is where the next 2 dungeons are located. But first, before getting to the next dungeon, which is the 7th one, if you've been keeping track of it, we need to figure out where the key is. And as it turns out, it's not too far from here. It's on the way. Boom. Let's enjoy that. I think that song in the mountains is quite a banger. Can't help but, like, my body moves around on its own when I'm hearing that. You can see 2 different ways to go through this room here. EDL chose to use the rooster to fly around, and Glan just did a dash jump with a hook shot. I think the rooster is safer, although it is slightly slower. Because if you fall down those holes here, you actually spawn back here. You don't void out and reappear in the room. But thankfully Glan did not mess that up, and actually maybe saved a very precious second. Which may be necessary for this phase, because everything is very, very close. Because both runners are going back and forth. 1 second, EDL's ahead, then it's Glan, then... I mean, everything is very impressive. Glan managed to catch up a bit. Okay, so we go here. We unlock that warp point here. It's a very important thing to do in this category. And it's definitely ahead by a couple seconds right now. And this is where we get to Dungeon 7, also known as Eagle's Tower. And if you've played the game, you probably remember this one, because you need to literally, destroy the dungeon. You need one floor to collapse into another. In order to do so, we first need to figure out where a ball is. It's like a big ball, a boulder, or I think it's a cannonball. I think that's what it's referred to as. And it's right there. And now both runners have to go to 4 pillars with that cannonball and break them by throwing the ball at them. Here's the first one. And we have indeed a very, very close race at this point. It's very impressive. As of right now, we have no idea who's going to win that. Like, no one's ahead. EDL managed to catch up a bit. EDL is slightly ahead now. Like, see, 1 minute EDL's ahead, and the next one is Glan. It's insane. So we have to go through this room here by breaking some more tiles. So they have to be very careful when carrying this ball around, because if it falls down a hole, it disappears and goes back to the room where they found it. Which is something you don't want to happen. Right now, I think both runners have the exact same round. I don't think there's not a lot of alternatives in this category. There's a few things that you can choose to do differently if you want, but at this point, there's nothing that changes. It's all going to come down to who executed the best. So they got the mirror shield, which only has 1 use in the run, but we need it, so we have to pick it up. And now here is the hardest boss fight in the game. Be careful, EDL's going through it, Glan's going through it as well. Let's see how they do it. Whew, close one. That was really hard. Whew. I'm pretty sure they're sweating right now. And this is where we get the nightmare key for this dungeon. But don't be too eager to see how this dungeon goes, because we won't be completing it right away. Because just like Dungeon 4, we complete this dungeon in 2 trips. In the first trip, which we are right now, we need to break the 4 pillars, which we're almost, they're almost reaching the last pillar here. And then they're going to leave the dungeon and go to the next dungeon, Dungeon 8. The reason for this is, once you complete Dungeon 7, if you go to Dungeon 8, you have to go through a short cutscene involving Marin, which takes quite some time. And if you go through Dungeon 8 first and then come back to Dungeon 7, you don't go through that place where the main cutscene happens. So, although you skip some more moments with Marin, you save time by doing this. So right now, yeah, they collapsed the top floor into into the dungeon, and they're heading out and headed to Dungeon 8. And after completing Dungeon 8, they'll be going back to Dungeon 7, and after completing Dungeon 7, we go back to Dungeon 4. I hope it's not too complicated. See, this is in this bridge that the Marin cutscene happens if you complete Dungeon 7 and go on your way to Dungeon 8. EDL is still a few seconds ahead, but this is still very, very close. And Dungeon 8 has quite a few sections where Glan could catch up. So you have to go through this mountain where rocks are falling all around. 4 is skipped, because finishing Dungeon 4... Dungeon 4 is done in 2 trips. The first trip we did earlier. But finishing Dungeon 4 triggers a side quest. Which you have to complete if you want, because if you don't, and the side quest stays active, you can't enter any dungeon. But if you complete Dungeon 4, at the very end of the game, you don't go through the trigger for the side quest, and you can go to the end without going through the side quest. So overall, it saves time, and it routes very nicely because you can go from Dungeon 7 to Dungeon 4 quite quickly. So now they're waking up the Turtle Rock here. Which is guarding the entrance to Dungeon 8. The side quest of the Ghost, which you get after Dungeon 4, actually gives you a bottle. And Glan died against Turtle Rock. That's rough. Definitely going to lose sometime here. It's complicated because once Turtle Rock has woken up, he appears as soon as you enter into the frame. That's very unfortunate for Glan, who's going to, and that means EDL is going to get like is going to be quite ahead right now. I mean, there's a lot that can still happen. Piece of power count is not relevant anymore, and I don't think it is influenced by death. And this is really the first time there's a huge difference between both runners. I mean, it's still a bit early to call the race. Although that mistake of Glan is going to be quite costly. So Dungeon 8 is quite a big dungeon. The route is very optimized. We know exactly where we need to go, which keys we need to get. But if you play it casually, this dungeon can be quite a nightmare. You can see that Glan is I would say like maybe 40 seconds behind. I'm not sure exactly. Maybe a minute. Okay, so while Glan is doing some... getting some keys and getting some extra bombs and arrows, which is going to be very necessary. And EDL is facing this dude here, named Blano, which you can actually stun lock with your sword. You can only hit Blano from his back, and if you manage to get behind him and use Link's position to your advantage, you can basically stun lock Blano here. EDL's fight was not optimal, so if Glan manages to do it very optimally, he could actually save some time here. Let's see how he does. That's a bit sad, but Glan did overall get a better fight, a better Blano fight than EDL. Because it may not look like it, but Link's hand, Link is left-handed, and that means then when he slashes his sword, he first deals damage to his left. So if you manage to get Blano to your left, when you fight him, you hit him first, and he doesn't have time to. He doesn't have time to move between your slashes. It's quite tricky, but it can save time. Blano allows you to get the magic rod, which is a dungeon item which throws fireballs. After that, we get an extra key, and then we head to another mini-boss fight. Which EDL is now in. This is another cubal fight, except there's a huge pit of lava in the middle. But by using a few arrows, you can do short work of cubal here. Final boss RNG could maybe have an impact on the final time. I guess we'll see when we get there. And after a cubal, you get to this this nice puzzle where you have to cover every hole with that thing that slides across the room. This allows you to get the Nightmare Key. Glan is now completing the cubal fight. EDL is really playing out of her mind. And now that they both have the Nightmare Key, they can go and kill the dungeon boss. Which is named Hothead. It's a huge, like, rock thing that jumps in and out of lava. And you can only damage it with your magic rod. And the magic rod is not a very useful weapon. I mean, it can only throw like 3 fireballs at once, and it's like a slight cooldown when using it. So using it optimally is not very fun. EDL made short work of Hothead first and second phases. And Glan is slightly behind. That was very impressive from EDL there. EDL might even be on PB pace, let me check that. Pretty sure EDL is on a PB pace. Anyway, so EDL gets the instrument, Glan is taking care of Hothead, seems to have more trouble than EDL. As you can see, the magic rod is not very interesting to use. Glan's PB is 1 hour 39 minutes and 33 seconds, and EDL is 1 hour 39 minutes and 34 seconds. They are 1 second apart when it comes to PB. And now they're going back to D7 to basically just complete the boss fight and get out. Yeah, the boss. Yeah, the magic rod can actually fire in diagonally here, but it's not a good weapon to have. It has a lot of inconvenience. So Glan is still slightly behind EDL. And that's mostly due to dying against Total War. That was a fatal mistake. Which may probably cost him the race if EDL keeps this pace. So yeah, we go back to D7 basically just for the boss fight, which is here. That's Evil Eagle. So you can actually damage it with arrows. You actually want to be careful with your arrows at this point. You need to save some for the end game. But EDL got literally a perfect fight on this. That was insane. That was really good RNG. EDL is on an insane run. So Glan is reaching Evil Eagle now. Actually has some RNG because, as you can see there, you can actually throw some feathers at you or lunge at you. And if he lunges at you, you can damage it. If he starts to launch feathers at you, you can just go down the ladder and go back up, which cancels the attack if you do it correctly. So yeah, optimally, if you have good RNG, you can finish this fight quite quickly. It can be a bit slower if you have bad RNG on this. And it's time for Dungeon 4 Part 2, once you complete D7. So the last thing we need to do in Dungeon 4 is get the Nightmare Key, and that gives me the occasion to talk about something I haven't talked about yet, but this puzzle here, which EDL is going through, like working on the tiles, it is random. That puzzle here is supposed to be random. When you create your save file, it generates a few things. Because when you create your save file at first, it sets the game on a seed. And that seed determines that puzzle, but also the path you need to go through when you get to the egg at the very end of the game. And that's supposed to be random, but that can be manipulated, which is what both runners did beforehand. If you create your save file after a specific amount of time since booting up the console, it sets the seed to where you want it to be, because the seed is set depending on how long the console has been putting up. So after getting Nightmare Key, doing a bit of a swag jump to get to the boss door, EDL is facing the Anglerfish. Glan is going to the Nightmare Key. The Anglerfish fight is very scripted. And by doing a lot of spin slashes, you can hit him very, very fast. You can see that Glan did the swag jump as well. That jump actually skips getting a key. And as EDL grabs the last instrument she needs, Glan is going against the anglerfish. Again, the anglerfish may look very scary. He is very scripted. Just need to damage it enough. Make sure it doesn't charges against the wall. Do as many spin slash as you can. And it should be quite fast. Yeah, I may have tried to explain it quite quickly. I'll go back to that right now. When you create your save file when first starting on the game, it sets the game on a seed, which sets a few things like the maze they're going to go through right now. And that seed is actually fixed depending on how long the console has been on. So by restarting your Switch and opening the game after like 36.5 seconds and creating your file, you get on the seed you want. And that means you know beforehand what's going to be a few things that are going to be random otherwise. So playing with the 8 instruments and your ocarina, you can open up that big egg here. EDL is definitely on the PB base. Let's see how it goes. That was a nice song. A real banger, as always. And now it's the final rush. This is the end of the run. We have to go through this egg here. So as I was saying, the path you must go through is supposed to be random, but through RNG manipulation, we make sure the path is what we want it to be. And we don't actually have to complete the trade quest for it. Otherwise, you would have to complete the trade quest all the way in order to get the magnifying lens, which allows you to read a book which contains the combination you need. So here we go. EDL is going inside the final boss fight, which is in 6 phases. And Glan is a few seconds behind. Starting to go inside the egg right now. So let's see. That fight actually has some RNG. I mean, the whole fight. First phase is just a blob, which you have to use magic powder on it 3 times. And then we have phase 2. Phase 2 is Aghanim making a comeback for a game of ping pong. And Aghanim can throw you either a red or blue ball, and the first one is always red, but then it's 50-50. And the blue ball can't be thrown back. The best RNG possible is getting only 1 blue ball. That's getting 2 right now. And you have to send 4 red balls back. That's 3 blue balls for EDL. That's 4. Okay, 3 blue balls is actually quite likely. That's decent RNG. Could have been better, but let's see. Then we have Moldom again. Glan's finished through the blob phase and going against Aghanim. Let's see how many phases, how many blue balls he has. EDL gets the quick kill on Ganon. I missed the beginning of Glan's Aghanim phase, but I think he only got 1 so far. 2. 3, 4. Okay, 4 blue balls for Glan. He's getting the red one after. And EDL is against the final phase, also known as Death Eye. And you have to throw some arrows at Death Eye for this. Exactly 10. And EDL completed the game. And she's definitely on. She definitely gets a PB out of it. She definitely has a PB from that. That is huge. And that's a win for EDL with a time of 1 hour 39 minutes and 7 seconds. That is very impressive. Which makes her actually bump Glan on the leaderboard. Glan is going through the final phases of his boss fight. That was an insane race from both runners. Glan is still getting a very decent time out of it. Hey, DL, GG.
Yeah.
GG, that's a PB as well, right?
Yes. That is.
How are you feeling?
I'm shaken.
You were playing out of your mind.
I was, and I was right when I kept saying that the RNG didn't matter, that I could PB anyway, even with turbo RNG. I just proved it right now. I just PB'd by 27 seconds with garbage.
With second try bomb jump as well.
You're right, I forgot that.
And Glan finished as well with a time of 1 hour, 40 minutes and 34 seconds. That was a very, very close fight. I don't know if you were watching yourself.
No, I wasn't.
But you were neck and neck all along.
I believe it with that finish time. Yeah, I believe that. I can't wait to rewatch that.
The only thing that cost Glan time was dying against Total Rock. That's it. That's the only time he actually made a major mistake.
That's unfortunate.
But that was so close.
Can't wait
that was
to
a
do
very,
that.
very impressive race. Okay, let's see if Glan wants to come on the voice call.
I don't think he can repeat the performance for game 2, however.
Hey Glan, GG.
Thanks.
How are you feeling after this race?
Disappointed.
No, I say GG, honestly. That's still a very good no reset time, honestly. That's the shit I've been getting always. And I know they're probably in the same kind of spot.
Yeah.
You watching?
You gotta
I can claim the tournament PB. As well. I know other people have done it. This is the first time I did it. Let's go.
I mean, I don't know if you were watching Glan, but you were neck and neck pretty much all the time.
Yeah, I was
you were pretty much
20
exchanging
seconds
the
ahead,
lead.
57.
You actually saved some time at few occasions. I mean, you got the one cycle and modified, the first try bomb jump.
Yeah.
Actually, you both got the exact same fight on Slime Eel. Got the top right spawn. And
yeah, that was dumb. And I couldn't steal the bow. I was so mad about that. It happened like when I was warming up too. I just failed stealing the bow for some reason, which is really easy. I don't get it.
yeah, very, very good race, nonetheless, from both of you. And that means that...
Are you okay with do you accept the rematch from 8-try Yoshi? Is that...
The rematch. Yeah.
Well, that means that since EDL won this one, that means you need a rematch on this final.
Yeah, we have a nice bracket reset, and we go to game 2, and the winner of that, whoever wins the whole thing.
Yeah, I guess that will be it.
The last race of the tournament.
This could have been the last race of the tournament.
Yeah. Maybe if I didn't die to Turtle Rock. It wasn't even to Turtle Rock, it was to one of the birds.
Oh, that's very feels bad. The birds.
Yeah.
I've had that a couple times. Not the stuff I like.
Yeah, the bird. But that was really insane to watch. I know people in chat were really excited about it as well. You were really like 1 minute it was EDL was away ahead, and then it was you, Glan. I mean,
Yeah, I'll definitely want to watch it back.
yeah, it was very interesting
Yeah, I want
to watch.
too. And I guess what it means I'm even more excited for game 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to train for that one a little bit more.
As if you weren't already training.
I've been slacking.
Yeah, I'll be training too. Can't wait to submit a PB after what was it? A month? I don't remember.
That's like a 25 seconds PB, something like this, right?
It's 27 seconds PB.
Yeah, I was really hoping I'd get one too, but I mean, Nightmare would have ended it anyway. Agam give me
Nightmare lost
blue
me
balls.
13 seconds. Just Nightmare. That's ridiculous.
I think EDL got 3 blue balls in Nightmare.
Yeah, I got kind of a bad eagle too.
Oh, you got a perfect eagle, I think, EDL.
No, I got 4 cycles, so it's not perfect, but it was pretty good. Like for the RNG that I got, yeah, it was pretty much near perfect. The only way that you could get better is get better attacks, but you can do it 3 cycle instead. But yeah, 4 cycle is really good.
Yeah,
then
4 cycles pretty good.
Now we'll be waiting for the final race then.
To go have some rest because I'm sore now.
Yeah, can understand that.
Yeah.
I think this is it for us. Thank you very much, ZeldaSpeedRuns, for hosting us, and yeah, we'll see you for round 2 of this grand final of the Link's Awakening Glitchless tournament.
Yeah, thank you for providing great commentary, and to both the runners for the amazing race. It was very close throughout, amazing to watch. And I'm very much looking forward to game 2 of this match. With that, what do we have coming up on CS? Let me check our schedule.
I think there's something like 10 minutes. I think there's something in 10 minutes.
There is something in 10 minutes. That is the Ocarina of Time Randomizer No Logic Blitz tournament, so we should probably get done here quickly. And then at 9 PM Eastern is Zelda 2 100% all keys tournament round. So, yeah, keep an eye on the schedule for all of that. Stick around if you are interested in OTR. And with that, thank you for watching.